Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. So, guys, have you wondered, with all the natural disasters we've seen going on, what are the most disaster prone states in the U.S.? And as this say, know the risks when you consider your next move or your retirement. And so, with all the things we've been seeing going on, I've gone back through different years, and a lot of the states on this list have changed dramatically if you go back a decade ago. So it's a good thing to keep in mind because things are changing. There's a lot of changes going on everywhere. And so this is a question raised by Americans thinking about relocating or possibly retiring. Where can I go where I don't have to worry about disasters like hurricanes, earthquakes, tornadoes, or wildfires? Here's the answer. Not any of these states. Though no place is completely safe, the states on this list get hit by nature more often than others. So they're the ones where presidents have declared the most major disasters, and they're looking at FEMA records that go back 65 years. And this is current as of mid-July 2018. So if you live in one of these states, make sure you have enough insurance. And number 25 on the list is one that's going to go way, way, way up, and that's Nebraska. And so they've had 62 major disasters since 1953, and obviously a major one that they're still going through right now. And as I said, you're going to see Nebraska climb upwards now on this list. And it just goes to show how some things may surprise you. Disasters have been declared in the Cornhusker State due to winter snow and ice storms, spring tornadoes, summer fires, and flooding virtually any time of the year. A major flood on the Missouri River in 2011 swamped Nebraska's Fort Calhoun nuclear plant and contributed to knocking it out of service for more than 2.5 years. Officials said there was never any radioactive danger. And we've talked about those nuclear plants. Number 24, Iowa. So major disasters since 1953, 63. And again, another state that sees more than its share of floods, including one in 2008 that pushed the Cedar River in Cedar Rapids to its highest level on record. Floodwaters covered more than 10 square miles and displaced 10,000 people. The National Weather Service says Iowa also averages 46 tornadoes a year, although 2017 was one of the busier years with 55 twisters. Other storms tear through the Hawkeye State with combinations of high straight-line winds, hail, ice, and snow. A Halloween blizzard in '91 destroyed up to 5 million worth of corn still in the fields. And number 23 is Virginia. Since 1953, there's been 64 major disasters. And Virginia's got mountains, beaches, and lots of woods in between, and you could bet it gets a lot of variety of weather, too. Presidents have issued disaster declarations over floods, fires, blizzards, droughts, and more than a dozen hurricanes, including 2011's Hurricane Irene that wrecked boats near the coast. But one of the state's more unusual and powerful natural disasters was a 2011 earthquake centered northwest of Richmond. The Washington Monument was closed for 3 years because of damage from a 5.8 magnitude quake, and that's something you wouldn't think about normally in Virginia. So 22 is Georgia. So major disasters since 53, 65. Georgia is far enough south and close enough to the coast that it's frequently battered by hurricanes or what's left of them. And in 2017, winds left over from Hurricane Irma swept through the state, causing widespread power outages, killing 3 people. In 2005, Hurricane Katrina spawned 18 tornadoes in Georgia. 1 person died. But the state isn't too far south for snow. Remember 2014 snowpocalypse in Atlanta? The highways got so jammed that thousands of people either abandoned their cars or slept in them overnight. And then this doesn't include what Michael did last year, because Michael really tore up Georgia after it got done with Florida. So that could nudge Georgia even higher come next year. Number 21 is Arizona, and you see fire danger sign right here. Major disasters since 53, 66. They don't call it Arizona for nothing. America's 48th state is known for being hot and dry, which is the perfect combination for fires. The state was scorched by more than 2,300 during 2017 alone. More than half of Arizona's declared disasters have involved fires. The largest ever was the Wallow Fire in 2011 that consumed more than 816 square miles in the state, an area more than half the size of Rhode Island. The state does get rain, sometimes too much of it. 13 Arizona floods have reached the level of a disaster in recent decades. And 2011 was a particularly bad year for natural disasters as well, as I've been doing a lot of research on this. So next on the list is a tie with West Virginia at 19, and you have 68 major disasters there. Flooding and mudslides can be catastrophic in the mountain state, particularly when storms dump rain in the hills and send water flowing into the populated valleys. Epic floods in June 2016 killed more than 24 people after as much as a foot of rain fell on parts of West Virginia in a matter of hours. While floods and storms are the most common disasters in West Virginia, the state has also dealt with severe snows, fires, and droughts, as well as the remnants of a couple hurricanes moving north. And tie with it is Montana at 19. And also 68 major disasters. Fires have been the cause of more than half of the disasters declared in the woodsy and mountainous state. And we see that in general. When you get out west, a big portion is forest fires. And so what's still regarded as the worst natural catastrophe in the state's history was the 1964 flood on the Blackfeet Indian Reservation. At least 30 people died in the flooding caused by torrential rains, an area spanning nearly 30,000 square miles, roughly 20% of this massive state, and it is actually the fourth largest state by size, was inundated according to the Montana Historical Society. And so we have another tie. We have Tennessee in at 17. 69 major disasters since 53. Tennessee is called the volunteer state, and that spirit of volunteerism is most appreciated after the disastrous weather that often whips the state. Severe storms accompanied by tornadoes, flooding, and even ice have often reached the disaster status in Tennessee. Major wildfires have been rare, although they've been a big source of trouble some years. In 2016, there were 5 separate disaster declarations over fires. Late that year, a fire in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park killed at least 14 people and threatened Dolly Parton's Dollywood theme park at Pigeon Forge. And that's tied with Missouri at 17, as we see some damage there from tornadoes. So 69, again, major disasters since 53. Tornadoes, flooding, ice storms, snowstorms, fires, drought, they all show up in the Show Me State. Missouri's location smack in the center of the country means it gets practically every kind of weather. One of the state's worst disasters on record was the Mississippi River Great Flood of 1993. Floodwaters swamped parts of St. Louis and climbed halfway up the grand staircase leading to the iconic Gateway Arch. Floods can occur practically anywhere in the U.S., and here's an important reminder: they are not covered by standard home insurance. You need government flood insurance to cover flood risks. 16 is Kansas. And, of course, tornadoes. 70 major disasters since 53. And so violent weather in Kansas isn't just the stuff of the Wizard of Oz. Over the decades, the Sunflower State has been hit by dozens of disasters, typically severe storms combining tornadoes with heavy rain and flooding. One of the worst Kansas twisters in history struck the suburbs around Wichita in April 1991. 17 people died in a tornado which was half-mile wide, had winds that topped 260 miles an hour, and did $300 million in damage. FEMA says other Kansas catastrophes have included wildfires, ice storms, and severe snowstorms. And then we move over to Arkansas at 15. 71 major disasters since 53. And again, though it's inland, Arkansas is no stranger to hurricanes. They occasionally sweep up from the Gulf of Mexico and cause various kinds of trouble. And the state that gave us Walmart and President Bill Clinton. In 2008, disasters were declared in Arkansas due to flooding and damage brought by Hurricane Gustav and Tropical Storm Ike. The state also experienced flooding and tornadoes from Hurricane Harvey in 2017. More typical Arkansas disasters include severe thunder and lightning storms, tornadoes, major ice storms, and floods from heavy rain. So number 13 is a tie with Nevada. 72 major disasters since 53. And things can get very hot in Nevada, and we're not talking about summertime temperatures or Las Vegas strippers. Devastating wildfires have been the cause of well over half the state's natural disaster declarations. And officials said that 2017 fire season was the worst in over 10 years and torched more than 1.3 million acres. Nevada has been battered by floods, snowstorms, drought, and a pair of earthquakes. And the twin quakes in 1954 had magnitudes of 7.3 and 7.1. Those are large. And they damaged not only roads, but the Nevada Capitol building in Carson City. And so it's tied with Mississippi. And you have 72 major disasters since 53. And this state on the Gulf of Mexico has been pummeled by no fewer than 17 hurricanes over the last 65 years. The worst was 69's Hurricane Camille, a rare Category 5 similar to Hurricane Andrew, the one that tore up the Miami area in 92. And Camille's more than 200-mile-an-hour winds were blamed for 141 deaths along the Mississippi coast and over $1.4 billion in total damage. At least 30 people were killed celebrating the storm and hurricane parties near the shore. Other Mississippi disaster declarations have involved severe storms, tornadoes, floods, and a freak southern ice storm in 1998. Kentucky is number 12, and 74 major disasters since 53. So like Kentucky Derby fans who go to the betting windows year after year but never win any money, some areas of the bluegrass state are terribly unlucky. The New York Times recently reported that eastern Kentucky is one of the regions of the U.S. most often struck by disasters. The community of Grayson has been hit by costly storms and flooding 9 times in the last 16 years. FEMA says Kentucky's most disaster-prone month happens to be the Derby month of May. And the state has seen May floods, tornadoes, mudslides, landslides, and rock slides. And so at number 10 tied is Oregon. As you see, tsunami evacuation route. 79 major disasters since 53. And the Great Northwest is a land of natural beauty, natural threats as well. Oregonians have had to deal with destructive fires, floods, mudslides, snowstorms, drought, earthquakes, and even a tsunami. A 2011 earthquake and tsunami in Japan sent shockwaves across the Pacific to the Oregon coast, where high waves damaged docks and left boats stacked up one on top of the other. Several boats sank or were washed out to sea. The Oregonian newspaper in Portland reported that 2 men were hurt when they were swept off a beach, and 1 man may have died. The tsunami cost the federal government $5.6 million in disaster assistance grants. And tied with it at number 10, Louisiana. And we have 79, again, major disasters since 53. And so since 2005, disaster in Louisiana has meant one word, Katrina. The state is still recovering from the costliest and one of the deadliest hurricanes the U.S. has ever seen. Storms slammed into Louisiana with 140-mile-an-hour winds and a storm surge of up to 30 feet. The horrific toll inflicted on the state included nearly 1,600 deaths, $25.9 billion in insured losses, according to FEMA. And because of Louisiana's location on the Gulf Coast, hurricanes have become an unfortunate habit. Katrina is just one of 26 that have given the state disastrous poundings over the decades. And another tie, New Mexico at number 8. With 80 major disasters. In some states, hurricane season is a thing. In others, spring is thought of as flood season. In New Mexico, there's a fire season, which tends to start in May or June and lasts until fall. More than half the time a disaster is declared in New Mexico is because of a forest or brush fire. The worst ever was the Whitewater Baldy fire in 2012, which burnt an estimated 465 square miles, about double the size of Chicago. New Mexico has seen not only extremely dry conditions that lead to fires, but also monsoon-style rains that cause flooding and mudslides. And so tied with it at number 8 is Colorado. And so Colorado with 80 major disasters since 53. And Colorado is another western state where fires are a major and regular threat. According to property inspection from HIE, Colorado is a magnet for fires because of its dry climate, thick vegetation, and mountain peaks that are like lightning rods. The 2002 Hayman Fire in Pike National Forest is regarded as the worst wildfire Colorado has ever seen. It scorched over 137,000 acres, burned 133 homes, killed 6 people, including 5 firefighters. Other Colorado disasters have included floods, droughts, and a pair of December blizzards in 2006 that cost the federal government nearly $10 million in disaster assistance. Denver was shut down by 2.5 feet of snow. And Colorado has had a heck of a winter this year. And again, this is one of the, along with New Mexico and Utah and Arizona, they make up the Four Corners states. And again, this is thought of as being one of the safer zones in the country, but still in a safe zone for these times. There's still disasters and dangers everywhere. Everywhere has its own challenges, and Alabama's number 7, and with 82 major disasters since '53. And again, thanks to its location on the Gulf Coast, Alabama has found itself a bullseye of catastrophic hurricanes far too many times. 19 have led to Alabama disaster declarations, including several that have become household names: Katrina, Irma, Camille. But none of those is considered the worst calamity ever to hit the state. That distinction goes to an outbreak of 62 tornadoes that struck Alabama over 4 days in 2011. Again, 2011 was a horrible year for natural disasters. And statistically, it's actually ahead of 2018, believe it or not, from what I've seen so far put out there. The most powerful cut, a 25-mile path with 210-mile-an-hour winds. Nearly 240 people were killed and around 2,000 were injured. So number 6 is surprising. Perhaps, maybe it's not surprising to you guys. New York. 95 major disasters since 1953. So the Empire State stretches from the Great Lakes to the East Coast, with farm country and mountains in between. Given its mix of climates and terrain, New York faces a variety of disaster threats too. Presidents have declared disasters in New York because of floods, blizzards, tornadoes, fires, ice storms, a 2002 earthquake that wrecked roads and chimneys, and a dozen hurricanes. Hurricane Sandy in 2012 was the worst storm to hit New York City area in modern times. It closed stock exchanges, left more than 8 million without power, swamped subway stations, and caused an estimated $50 billion in damage. And number 5, Florida. And I'm sure most people are not surprised with that because of the hurricanes. But when you look at it closely, it's an interesting mix in Florida. So 130 major disasters since 1953. So we're taking a big jump up. We're going from 95 to 130. And the way Florida dangles there on a map at the northern edge of the Caribbean, you'd probably assume hurricanes are top danger for the Sunshine State, but you would be wrong. Florida has seen more disaster declarations from fires, 45, than from hurricanes, 39. April and May are the peak fire danger months, coming off the winter dry season. In April 2017, more than 115 wildfires were burning at one time. But that's not to dismiss the threat from hurricanes, obviously. Though Florida recently went through 11 years, 2005 to 2016, without a hurricane making landfall, Hurricane Irma made up for lost time in 2017. Irma led to mass evacuations, and I was one of them, and was one of the state's costliest and most destructive hurricanes ever. So number 4 is the state of Washington. 136 major disasters since 1953. Does that surprise you guys? So though Washington is known for its lush green forests, the state does have its dry spells, which have resulted in devastating forest fires every year since 2000. The 2017 fire season was called one of the worst on record, destroyed hundreds of thousands of acres. Washington has endured floods, mudslides, landslides, earthquakes, and of course volcanoes. And number 3, Oklahoma. And again, one of the safe zones is also the Ozark area. And we've seen Arkansas, and now we're seeing, and we saw Missouri, and now we see Oklahoma. So again, even in your quote-unquote safe zones that people talk about, there's big dangers, and it's good to be aware of what could hit in your area. And so 173 major disasters. 173. So another huge jump up, 136 to 173. And although it's a mid-sized state, it's 27th by population and 20th for area, Oklahoma is near the top as a disaster zone. Most of it lies within the central U.S. tornado alley. So the state has been plagued by twisters. One of the worst was the Moore tornado in 2013, which killed 24 people and caused an estimated $2 billion in damage, with 210-mile-an-hour winds. Oklahoma has endured wildfires, floods, and severe winter storms. And 9 ice storms have been bad enough to bring about presidential disaster declarations. So number 2 is the big grand state of Texas. And Texas has been hard hit lately for sure. 255 major disasters since 1953, so another big step up in volume. Of course, it's a big state. Everything is big in Texas, right? The disaster risks in Texas are as big as the state's reputation. The sprawling Lone Star State takes a beating from fires, floods, tornadoes, hail, winter storms, and let's not forget hurricanes. FEMA Director William Brock Long told the Washington Post that 2017's Hurricane Harvey would likely go down as the worst national disaster Texas has ever seen. And that particular storm dumped more than 4 feet of rain on Houston, leading to historic flooding that sent homeowners rushing to their rooftops to escape the rising water. Officials say the storm cost 88 lives and $125 billion in damage. And number 1 is the state of California. 281 major disasters since '53. So America's most populous state is also the most disaster prone according to the FEMA data. Yes, California is associated with earthquakes for good reason. There have been a dozen disastrous ones over the last 65 years, including the 1994 Northridge quake, costliest in U.S. history. 57 people died. More than $20 billion in damage was done. Apartment buildings, freeways crumbled like floods. Earthquakes require special insurance beyond standard home insurance. But a far more frequent threat in California is the wildfires. In 2017, there were more than 9,000 that burned an area roughly the size of the state of Delaware, and we know that 2018 was worse. And what is 2019 going to hold? So California is your number 1 most, disaster-prone state, according to FEMA. So what do you guys think of these numbers? Do they surprise you in any way, shape, or form? What states surprise you? Does any of this make you feel like you want to change your location if you are in one of these states? What are your thoughts as always, my friends? And this is going to go up on Evolutionary Energy Arts 2. And this is our backup channel, our new backup channel. Because the first one is definitely in danger right now, with 2 strikes on it right now. Thankfully, hopefully, we will not run into a third, and so we're gonna change how we're doing things over there a little bit, and post more of the normal stuff on the backup channel, and do things a little bit differently. So I hope you guys will go ahead and subscribe to the backup channel. Make sure that you click the bell to get all the notifications on that one as well. And I truly appreciate your support. You guys are great. We have the best family going here on YouTube. As always, I look forward to your comments, my friends. Stay safe out there. God bless and namaste.